What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tyler, and this is Brooklyn Build 718. I'm going to jump right into today's video. We have a lot to talk about, and it's been a long time since I've updated the channel, but a lot has changed in my life, and I want to bring you guys up to speed about what's going on with my cars and what to expect from the channel in the future. First things first, what's up to the new subscribers? A lot of you guys have been asking me when I'm going to post new footage, and today's the day. The wait is over. So let's get everybody up to speed. You're probably wondering where I'm standing. This is my new garage. It's a 24 by 45 pole barn, plywood, 2x4s, and some sheet metal. Pretty simple stuff. If any of you guys know, I used to live in Brooklyn. I moved from Brooklyn to PA recently. And when I was living in Brooklyn, I had 3 Hondas that I had to move around for street cleaning, which was a little crazy. So I ended up renting a garage in Conshohocken, which is pretty much 20 to 30 minutes out of Philadelphia. Every weekend I would have to drive 2 hours to just go see my cars, work on them, film. So it became pretty difficult to do that and make progress with the channel. It was a little overwhelming with work, and I just found myself strict with time. That's all different now. I'm back to work. I'm in a new place, which is really nice. I have all my cars in one garage that I could just walk outside my door and they're right here. It's really changed my whole look on filming altogether and brought me back to wanting to have a channel. First thing I want to talk to you guys about is the difference in garage size from my previous garage to this one. Now, if you watch my old videos, the garage I had was probably maybe a 12 by 21 car, which it wasn't bad. It served its purpose. I was able to squeeze 2 Hondas in there, and even though you really had no room to do much else, it brought me satisfaction knowing that both my cars were, or all my cars were safe. I was using one and storing the other 2. So that's that. The second thing we're going to talk about is a lot of you guys some of you probably started following me because I've owned a 91 RT 4-wheel drive wagon. And unfortunately, I no longer have that vehicle. I ran into some issues where money was tight and I had to downsize in cars because it started to get a little crazy with insurance and registration, and I needed something I was going to daily and not have any issues with. And the wagon, the body started to really get bad and the floor started to rot. So I decided to part ways with it. Ultimately, I thought it was the best decision at the time because I needed a daily that was going to be reliable, because I do travel from PA to New York every day for work, and I needed a car that's not going to give me any issues or get me stuck on the side of the road. Not that the wagon would, but I just started to foresee future problems that I was not able to fix with my current situation and money. So I was like, you know what? I don't want this thing to turn into a money pit. It has served me so well. I think I'm going to move on and just give it to somebody who's going to appreciate it and just use it and make the best of it. So unfortunately, guys, if you're following me for the wagon, I no longer have it. But I do plan on getting another wagon sometime soon. Funds are a little tight, and I do have other ideas as far as projects that I want to work on and continue. So with that being said, you guys are probably wondering, what cars do I have left? So let's get right into the first car. I still got my 91 Tahitian Green CRX. Now, to those of you who have been following me for some time, I did buy this car all original from the second owner. It came with the stock D16 A6. It did have some issues as far as running. I know it overheated, and the owner said it might have a bad head gasket. So when I bought the car, it did have some rust. It did have some motor issues, but overall, it was a solid chassis. And this color has been a favorite of mine since I've been into Hondas. Any of these teal, Tahitian green colors, I've always thought they were the best looking colors on these cars, and it fits these body lines really well. So I ended up buying a motor for this car, a B16, a JDM B16A, OBD0. I swapped it in, had the motor rebuilt, swapped it in, enjoyed it for a little bit, and then COVID hit. I kind of lost motivation to film, and I kind of stopped messing with this car, but she is not going anywhere. I do have a lot of plans for it as far as what I want to do, but I'm kind of up in the air about a lot of them. I still have the original D16 A6, and I do have the B16A as well. I don't know if I'm going to be putting the B16A back in. I've kind of got other plans for that motor in the meantime, but I'm unsure exactly what's going to be set in stone. The one idea I did have for this car was I don't drive it enough, and I feel like I don't appreciate it enough for what it is. So you guys can give me some feedback on what you think maybe I should do with it. One of my ideas was I was just going to refresh the old single cam, the D16A6. Basically do everything I did to the B16, get it rebuilt back to stock specs, get everything running again, get the AC running again, get basically this car running back to tip-top shape in its stock form. I noticed as a new resident to Pennsylvania, the roads are very different up here now, because driving in New York, it can definitely take a toll on your car. There's plenty of potholes, there's plenty of traffic, and just driving in the city, and it's a lot of stress on a car. The one thing I did realize that I commute every day is driving about 80 miles on a highway with a car, you're gonna be prone to chips on the paint, things hitting the windshield. So this was a car that I definitely wasn't going to daily or just drive every day as a daily driver. This has always been a weekend warrior for me, and it's going to continue to be that. But in the meantime, I just don't know at the moment if I'm going to swap another B Series into it or just bring it back to its original state just so I can drive it and not have to worry about it. So there's a lot of things up in the air with this car, so I'm not 100% set on bringing it back to its original form. I'm kind of just playing with ideas. The car is currently sitting on Skunk 2 suspension. It's got basically new tires on it still that I barely used. All the brakes are new, control arms, all the bushings have been redone. The car is in really, really good shape. I really have had no issues with this car since I've gotten it, except the little issues I've already managed to fix with the body. Other than that, it has been a joy to drive, even though I don't get to drive it as much. So I definitely want to do some big things with this car as far as when the weather gets a little nicer. So stay tuned for that. And we're going to bring in the next car. Okay, so the next car that we're going to talk about is the 1990 Y49 CRX SI. So I got these cars probably about a year apart when I was living in Brooklyn. And I've always wanted a yellow CRX. I feel like these were one of the nicest colors besides the Tahitian green that came on these cars. And I found one in South Carolina from a lovely couple. And I had it transported up to Brooklyn. And I just fell in love with this thing the moment I saw it. It was so clean. And the fact that it came from the original owners was a big plus for me, because these cars are often passed through a lot of people before you can find them in decent shape. So once I found this one, I knew that I had to jump on it, even though it might not have seemed like a good time to add another car to my collection. So this is a 1990 CRX SI, all original, and I bought it off the original owners, so I would be considered the second owner. But the fun fact about this car actually is it is no longer mine. You're probably wondering how it's still in my possession if it's not mine, but my father-in-law actually, when I showed him this car and he saw that I had it, he instantly fell in love with it and was looking for a little vehicle to get around in, because he no longer wanted to drive his Dodge Durango, which was kind of rough on gas, and this car just appealed to him, and he thought it was so cool. And I said, you know what? This car was just sitting after I bought it. I was barely driving it, and he wanted something that he could whiz around in and park easily. So I decided that since it's staying in the family, you know what? I said, it's yours. He bought it off of me, and now all I do is maintain it, but I'm fine with that because he takes really good care of it, as you can see. He doesn't even drive it that often, so I'm not honestly worried about it too much. And now that we moved and all my cars are in the same place, that it really doesn't make me worry, because I don't have to worry about people stealing them. I don't have to worry about anything happening in the street. So this car still has the original D16A6, still has a full AC system. It's sitting on the original 15-inch, it's sitting on the original 14-inch CRX SI wheels. These are the 90-91 wheels. Currently sitting on, I think it's 75/65 14s, which is actually a smaller size tire than what's called for. Now, as far as things that I've done to this car, I don't have any plans of ever swapping this motor. I think the motor in this car runs great. It runs perfect. It's been very well taken care of. Even though the mileage is high, I think that everything on this car has been meticulously looked at and replaced. And overall, it's been in great shape, and it's a blast to drive. I did little things to it, like switch out the corner lights, change them to ambers, the bumper lights. And I've just been basically maintaining it since then. I think the fact that it's all original is so cool that you don't really see these cars. And my father-in-law is not big on modding these cars because he likes the way they look, the way they are, and how they run. So I think that this car is overall just going to be stock, and we're just going to be maintaining it, driving it on the weekends, and basically just restoring it slowly to its original glory. There's a few issues we have with the paint, but I do have a lot of new parts that have been sitting with this car. When I bought it off the original owners, they told me that they probably spent over $1,000 worth of parts that they gathered up because they planned on restoring it themselves. So when I actually bought the car, they gave me a great deal on all the extras that they had bought with the car, including a new bumper, tons of interior pieces, rear lights, just tons of cool stuff. I actually changed out the rear taillights. There were some pretty major cracks in a lot of these, and water would gather up, so I changed those out not too long ago, and the car, it just changes the whole look from the back when the lights are on and you don't see any of those lines from the cracks. So it gives it overall like a cleaner look. The next few things that I plan on doing with this car is just getting the AC system to work, just so that my father-in-law could drive it in the summer and doesn't have any issues with the air. I'm just going to briefly show you guys the interior. The door panels are really clean. The carpet's in really good shape. I still have the original mats for it that actually have the lettering on it, so it's in decent shape. We decided to put seat covers on it just so that the seats don't get worse. There is a few tears in the driver's seat. Nothing in the passenger as usual because that seat always maintains, but we do have some issues with this one that we're going to have to get reupholstered. The rear plastic is all there. Everything is in good working condition. The privacy cargo cover is in good shape. Everything works. The sunroof needs a little help, but overall it's gotten better because I lubricated the tracks and I've been working on it to get it like working again. But there's just a few things we're gonna have to button up. But overall, this car is in really, really good shape. I was honestly so surprised when I got it because you don't really see these cars like this anymore, especially on the inside. I just want to show you guys the climate control. It does have an issue. It's slightly cracked right there. I don't know if you can see it, but I do have a repair kit for this, and I plan on just restoring everything to its former glory. Only thing in here that's probably not stock, as if you noticed, is the steering wheel. After my wagon was stolen one time, I promised myself I would never give a thief an opportunity to take something again, even though you have to be careful no matter what you have as far as security. If somebody wants your car, they're going to try and take it. Oh, I wanted to show you, I never really understood what this was from. This isn't the first time I saw this. In my hatch, I still have the same issue. I don't know how this happens. I don't know if it's from water or something hit it, but I literally have the same kind of stain on the glass in my hatch. So I'm always never really sure where this came from, but apparently it happens to these cars where I guess the weathering wears out and moisture gets in and it starts to taint the glass. But overall, I'm probably gonna have to replace the windshield, even though it's not in too bad a shape. But this bothers me because I don't want any water to start running down and getting into areas it shouldn't. So let me just show you guys under the hood real quick. So I have a new bumper for it, new hood emblem. Let's get this open. Stock everything, D16A6. It's got all the stock air piping, just the way I like it. I'm gonna freshen up this bay in the summer. I'm probably gonna clean it up, clean it out once the weather gets a little nicer. We'll paint the valve cover. Really want to get the AC working for my father-in-law because it gets really hot up here, and I just don't want him to be uncomfortable driving in the summer with no AC. I don't think I've ever been in an EF where AC has worked, but that is my main mission for my cars, is I don't rip the AC system out anymore, because unless it's a full-on race car, I don't see the need to possibly reduce the weight, even though it's not going to be affected that much. So little things like that we're going to be filming and shooting. And that's basically it for this car. We've just been maintaining it, keeping it clean, and trying to just, you know, take the best type of care of it we can. All right, that wraps it up for the 1990 Y49. Okay, so next in my lineup of my collection is my 1990 Honda Civic Standard hatchback. So this was the last car I bought out of my collection. And the reason I bought this car was actually because the wagon was stolen from me and I did need a replacement car to drive every day. So I found this car on Craigslist for a good price. It had no rust on it, and it was a one-owner car. So the ironic thing is it's the same color as the wagon, and I thought maybe this would be a good deal and a good start to start something fresh as far as a project and just a new daily. So I ended up buying this thing out of Jersey for a good price. And the funny thing is right after I bought it, I actually got the wagon back. So it kind of just became a car now that I really had no purpose for, because the wagon was back to being my daily. And I really didn't need this car, but I didn't want to get rid of it because of how clean it was. So the car has minor damage on it. No real major rust spots except some small dings that I'm going to take care of. But there's no holes. There's nothing major. The real damage is someone kind of banged up this door and put a few dents in it. Nothing too crazy, but as you can see, it's pushed in over here. I guess they hit something when they were parking it or something, but not too crazy. And there's just some minor damage on that driver's side fender. I do have the molding for the door, so that's not a big deal, even though those are getting hard to find. It is overall really clean, and the fact that I got the wagon back, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this car, so it kind of sat for a while in my garage in Philadelphia, and I just kind of didn't really have any plans for it. But now that the wagon is sold, this is my new daily that I drive back and forth to NYC every day. You guys are probably wondering what's done to it. So when I bought the car, it was completely stock. It had the original dual point motor, 70 horsepower, kind of 4-speed transmission, so you really weren't getting much out of it. My original plan with this car was I was going to take the D16 A6 that came out of here, rebuild it, and convert this car to multi-port. So long story short, the motor that I took the B16 to get rebuilt that went into this car, I brought them the D16 out of this car, and they never ended up working on it. They got too busy, and the motor sat in their shop for a year. So I decided, screw that, I'm moving. I don't want to travel back to these guys if they're not going to work on my stuff. So I got the motor back, and nothing was done to it, and it was kind of a motivating killer, because this motor needs work. It didn't really run too good when it was in this car, and I know it had an overheating issue, even though I fixed the head gasket. So I didn't want to waste time by putting it into this car and then this car not running right because it's my daily. So this car continued to sit for a little while longer. Now, in the meantime, on the internet, I was searching for just, I'm always on the web searching for stuff, searching for motors, just seeing what types of deals are out there. So what I ended up doing is I ended up coming across another D16 A6 motor out of a CRX SI. I called the guy up. He's like, yeah, I still have it. You can come grab it. It runs 100%. I got the matching transmission. I was like, perfect. I went to his house in Long Island. He had a really nice CRX with a Type R in it, showed me around, showed me the car, shook hands, showed me the motor, and that was it. I was on my way. So the lucky thing for me is I was able to throw that motor in this car, convert it to multi-port, and now I have a good running 1.6 daily. And I still have my original CRX motor, so I didn't really waste any time. I didn't spend a lot of money. And it kind of worked out overall for everybody. So let me just pop the hood and show you guys what's going on underneath. Okay, D16 A6 with the matching trans. I basically swapped everything out from my old single cam. I upgraded the mounts to Hasport, upgraded the master cylinder to a 15/16 master cylinder. What is this? This car is a ton of fun to drive. The difference that this motor makes from the original dual point motor is kind of crazy. I always had trouble going up the hills because PA's got a ton of hills, and when it was the 4-speed, I was like, wow, this thing's gonna have problems. But now that this is in the car, and it's only maybe a 15 horsepower difference, which I guess can seem like a lot, but what a joy it is to drive now. It's basically an SI. So I had bought a Monotech harness, which is basically a plug-and-play harness to convert the car from dual point to multi-port. They give you a sub-harness that runs to the ECU that you have to just repin. It gives you all your new lines for your 2 extra injectors, your distributor, you get the resistor box, and you're pretty much good to go. It adds up everything you need to have for this car to run properly. So I have had no issues with this car whatsoever. I did change the tires, I changed the clutch, there is a new distributor. I do have a nice exhaust on it. I wasn't able to find a stock exhaust, so I went with the HKS. If anyone's familiar with that exhaust, it's actually a really nice exhaust. I'll show you guys a little bit of that, how it sounds and whatnot. But it's pretty cool. It sounds pretty cool. It's not loud, it's not obnoxious. So I'm really happy with this overall. So right now this car has just been my daily. It's been a ton of fun to drive, and I do have some plans with it because I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do as far as motor work to it. I was thinking about throwing the B16 in this and using it as a daily, but I'm not 100% on that either, so there's a lot up in the air. But right now she's running good. She's running solid. I have no issues with how this motor runs. The tranny makes a little funny noise because the owner did tell me he left it out in the rain for a night or two, and I guess that kind of screwed up the bearings. But as far as running right now, she's been running really good. Just want to give you guys a little bit of the interior. I left the stock seats in because I really find these seats to be extremely comfortable. I didn't want to take them out because a lot of people say that they're not really good for support, but I have had no issues driving with these, and I spend a lot of time in this car, and honestly, these are much more comfortable than the CRX seats. You sit higher, you get a little more support, and I just feel like since these haven't been used as much, the cushion has a lot more life left in it. I kept the interior as far as the steering wheel stock. I did put a DC Integra console in this. I do have a video of that on the channel where I can show you guys how this fits. It's pretty cool. Someone showed me this in the past and I thought it was the coolest thing, and I always wanted to make a video on it. It doesn't line up perfectly. There is a small gap, but overall everything works, and having cup holders in an EF is basically life. So this car still has its full AC system. Everything works except the lower speeds on the climate control. I think it's the resistor I got to change, but the high speed works. AC is still intact. I just got to recharge it, change the seals, get some lubricant in the compressor, and that should kick over. But that's really it. The interior is mostly stock, and I plan on keeping it that way for now. Nothing really crazy, just keeping it clean. I do have to put the removable steering wheel back on. I did have one on there, and I ended up stripping the bolts, so I had to grind it off, and it did not look pretty. So I threw the stock wheel back on for now, even though I do not feel safe taking the car out and not having a removable wheel. So I'm going to throw the quick release back on that, but interior is mostly stock and has basically stayed the same since my last video about this car. And that's really pretty much it for the hatch. So that's pretty much it for the 90 hatch. I think overall I'm going to eventually swap that motor out and put something like a B series in, but right now she's running good. I want to address the little things on the body, put that new door on, and just kind of get this freshened up so that way she's 100%. So let's bring in the next car in my collection. Alright guys, so the last vehicle I'm going to introduce to the channel today is our 2006 Honda Element EXP all-wheel drive. To be clear, this is my fiance's car, and when she met me, she saw that I was very much into Hondas and knew a lot about them. And she had always been a Jeep girl and was used to having something that sits a little high, something more like an SUV. But she was in the market to change vehicles and wanted something reliable that was better on gas, but still decent in the snow. So we put our heads together and decided that this car was the perfect option and the solution that she wanted to change into. So we found one on Craigslist. I decided to go check it out. There's minor issues with little dings and dents in the body. The paint's got some scratches, but overall the condition of the car is really well. I've done a few things to it since we've gotten it, just basic little maintenance things like bushing replacements, brakes. I did some heavy work on the rear as far as wheel bearings and axles because I wanted the all-wheel drive system to be in tip-top shape for the winter. So I changed all the fluids, made sure everything was running correctly. The one thing I do think this car does need is a new set of tires, because up here tires are very important. But let me just show you guys the interior. Really clean. And I've always liked these cars for this option, this kind of suicide door option where the back opens up. It's like a coupe, but not. So the interior is basically all stock. Seats are in decent shape. I do need to repair some issues with the driver's seat. I've kind of been in the market for one. I don't know if I'm going to take this one apart and just replace the cushion, but a new seat from Honda is pretty expensive. Stock radio, stock factory alarm. It's got a nice moonroof in the back. Back seats have barely been used. The nice thing about this car is the back seats fold down. You can pretty much move them to the side and fit a lot of things in here. So that was another big reason why we decided to get this car. So let me show you guys under the hood real quick. If you guys know about Elements, they do come with the K24, which is a 2.4 liter. It's one of the bigger boys, the big boy motors that Honda makes. Stock motor, 2.4 liter. Pretty much everything is there. Everything works. Engine bay is a little dirty, but we haven't really driven this car too much. But now that the wagon is gone, I don't have a car that's good in the snow, so this car is going to become pretty much the family car when we need it to be. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up for the Element. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Got to give this thing a wash when the weather gets a little nicer, but overall, I'm very happy with this car, and I'm going to be making some videos on it, just on the daily maintenance and little progress that I make along with it. Just wanted to give you guys a quick shot of all the cars in the garage and just how much extra space I have to just work on them, move around, and overall just show you the difference in setups now that I have from my old garage. I hope this motivates you guys, and I do apologize again for the lack of content, but I hope this shows you that I'm definitely going to put out some more footage, and I'm hoping now that my job is getting back into a smoother rhythm, I'll have the time on the weekends to make the videos happen. I do want to try to get a video out every weekend, whether it's a 10-minute video or a 20-minute video, just to be able to keep uploading footage, so that way there's not so much time in between videos and a lack of interest. Because to me, if I'm going to make a video, I want to stay consistent, and I want to be able to put footage out and keep you guys updated as much as possible, because I got a ton of parts that I want to add to these cars, and just a ton of little ideas that I think could be cool, fun projects to see and put on YouTube. So once again, I do appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you like the new setup. There's going to be a lot more work in the future done, as far as possibly getting a lift in here, because I do have the correct ceiling height now in order to get something that I've always wanted. I have 10-foot ceilings, and if I do re-brace these, I could probably get a little more height out of it, but 10 feet is more than enough to get what I would need in here. So stay tuned, guys. Next video should be coming out in a few days. Gonna get some parts on these cars. Gonna possibly do a few driving videos once the weather gets nice. There's just been a lot of snow lately where I'm at, so it's been hard to get some footage down. But anyway, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace. I'm out.